International affairs commentator, you must have some observations on these international backlash mounts. A targeted strike killed Al Jazeera journalist, prompting outrage. US congressional Democrats condemned Israel's action. Does it matter?
Of course, it does matter. We have to look at how long this aggression has been going on, and as Norman mentioned, that Israel and South Sudan are in talks of course, sending the Palestinians a forced transfer, which will violate international law, according to the media statements. And of course, I don't see how Benjamin Netanyahu is planning on doing such a thing, sending Palestinians away from their homeland into South Sudan. And you know, South Sudan has been marred with violence for many years. A civil war had taken place in that nation. So of course, that does not seem to be a proper peaceful replacement of the Palestinian people, or allowing them access to a state. But even as we talk on this broadcast today, Israeli forces have killed at least 24 Palestinians since dawn. So it's a daily activity, which of course includes 5 children and 5 aid seekers, according to the Palestinian Red Crescent Society. International organizations like the Red Crescent has been trying their level best alongside the UN to counter what Israel has been doing in the Gaza Strip. And it's very sad to say that a minority has taken the role of a majority nation, and now they're forcing out those who have been claimant of this land historically for the decades earlier. Many decades earlier, 8 decades if you would, if I would clarify. And understanding that Al Jazeera has lost so many staff, not just as recent of 2 days ago, but in this aggression that they've had with Israel ever since October 7th. The reporter journalist deaths have been mounting. It is well above 200 journalists that have been murdered by Israel. And I see Western nations have a conscience to this inhuman activity that Israel is carrying out. Even Jews in Britain, I've mentioned it yesterday, writing an open letter to Keir Starmer, telling them to pursue a full blockade of Israel's military actions in Gaza. Even with such condemnation by world leaders, there is no stopping Benjamin Netanyahu's trial upon the Palestinian people.
Sir, have you noticed one thing? If you talk about the world's #1 news is Russia-Ukraine war, Trump is here. If you talk about the Middle East, I mean Israel and Gaza war, Trump is here.
There as well.
Now we'll come into the tariff issue. This is also Trump's issue. My question would be to you, shifting the lens of South Asia and the Middle East, how might Trump's approach to the Ukrainian conflict affect US engagement in this region, especially regarding trade and defense partnership? This question is for Pantho sir, because South Asia is becoming engaged with the world trades like tariffs issues, imposing high level of tariffs, high percentage of tariffs. What is your comment on that? Again, Trump is here.
Thank you for your similarity into this issue and comparison. Of course, Donald Trump, the name, his actions and whatever he has done in the last 8 months go hand in hand with the world domination. Not only in trade, not only in land disputes, he has a plan of a new world order in which he sees himself as the leader. If you compare both of his terms, last term he was seen a bit conservative in most of his action making, but now the things that he said he feared in the last term, he is making sure that the US citizens are now living in this dystopian future in which he is a leader, but he is not thinking about his citizens. Moreover, he is only pointing fingers at other world leaders and consequences across the globe, especially in Southeast Asia and South Asia in general. We know that in his first term he had a negative remark regarding China, and it became sorts of memes on online platforms as well, his take on China. But we now see a 90-day tariff truce up until November. Of course, China being the world's greatest manufacturing country for the last 25 years, I believe that the US should be far more calculated in order to understand what kind of tariff boundary they will share with China. But apart from China, you see the allies as well, South Korea, Japan, they weren't spared from this tariff regimen. Not even us as Bangladeshi country, we are proud of our RMG sector, and even that is going to take a toll from Donald Trump's tariff policies. But I want to see 1 year from today where the Americans are sick and tired of inflation and where the rest of the countries are having surplus of export. I want to see, is he actually making America great again or making it worse?
And do you believe the world leaders are, they have the nightmare about the face and name of Donald Trump?
What they will all do is take away their dependency on the greenback, on the US dollar, and of course households in America are to be affected.
India and United States trade relationship goes worse. So my question to Shamsul Alam Pantho, how Bangladesh or Pakistan can take advantages of this, because India is the biggest exporter and of course importer as well.
We must look at narratives here. We look at the India and Pakistan war lasted 3-4 days and extend 2 weeks, where the entire world and Donald Trump's administration kept on claiming that it was trade and their trade issues that caused both of the countries to come at a ceasefire. Of course, the two nations were fighting regarding the Kashmir issue, regarding water sharing issues, and of course, according to Indian media channels and Indian narrative, it was to fight terrorist activities across the border. But while doing so, they have attacked sovereign Pakistan, and Pakistan had a sense that we will defend, but if needed, we will attack. Now, even after such a ceasefire between the two nations were brokered, India kept on saying that it was something else that led to this ceasefire, and definitely was not Donald Trump's mediation. So when you make such a claimant, you can expect Donald Trump's administration to be coming after you later on in the months subsequent. So we have seen that right now, because of the BRICS, Donald Trump had been warned, the Americans have been warned that a new nexus of global dominance has been growing, which includes Russia, China, India, South Africa and Brazil. So this entire bloc has now has become the enemy, if not directly but indirectly, to the United States. But recently, as of yesterday, I was looking at the news and I see a possible breakout of parliament in the constituted Indian parliament as well. We see Priyanka and Rahul Gandhi being arrested because they were voicing their concerns, and they of course have the right to protest, as India is the greatest or the largest democracy. But the point here being, democracy is a style of governance for any kind of country, any government, for its on its people to understand how it can be beneficial to society. And of course it stems from the Westminster style of politics and how it has been dealt. But as of recent, the Indian internal politics is now firing up, as Mr. Modi does not have as much a sway that he had initially with Donald Trump, and they're having a fallout of friendship. And as per your question, how should neighboring Pakistan and Bangladesh utilize this issue, and how we can make sort of it? We should never allow our countries to take this position that India has taken, a very strong, tough position between two rocks. That's where Bangladesh and Pakistan cannot be. And of course, Asim Munir, I must mention Chief Marshal, I think.
He's a Field Marshal.
Field Marshal. Yeah. Thanks for that clarification. So he had visited America very recently as well, twice during the Donald presidency, and he was stated saying in a closed door meeting that he will not, in order to deter and in order to protect his own country, he will not think second for nuclear deterrence. So of course this region is now holding much more importance to America than before.
Sir, one relevant question. Don't you think Indian leadership are getting little bit huge jerk with the relationship of United States and China, including the neighboring countries? And on the other side, Field Marshal Asif Munir's recent statements is a kind of threat to India.
50% tariff because of having ties with a different global leader or global order. This 50% tariff will definitely take a toll on Indian household, Indian economies, their quality of or quantity of exporting materials outside to other countries as well as the United States. As we also take notice of Indian ethnicity between the major corporations in America, American companies, and the CEOs and MDs are all ethnically speaking from India. So one must understand how far diversified India is. Not only so, at this moment it's far too early to say in terms, but the tariff regimen has already been implemented, and it is fair to say that by the end of this year we'll see how much effect the BRICS nations shall face in this question, specifically India as well.